Welcome everyone to Quantum Leap. I'm your host, Toyin Umesiri. And today I have a very special guest in the house here in downtown Aurora, visiting us from Washington, D.C., Miss Judith Pryor. Welcome.
Thank you, Toyin. I'm so pleased to be here.
Oh my, it's such an honor. We already got started talking, but let me just officially just give a highlight of the incredible woman we have in the house.
Thank you.
Good. So, Ms. Judith Pryor was appointed by President Biden to serve as the first Vice President and Vice Chair of the Board of Directors of the Export-Import Bank of the United States. Ms. Pryor has spent majority of her career working with multinational businesses from Asia to Europe to Africa, primarily in emerging markets, and brings to EXIM more than 35 years of business leadership, experience spanning development finance, public policy, business development, marketing, communications, and sales. Incredible. You have so much more. We'll put your full profile on the website.
Thank you.
So there's a lot. I've been looking forward to today for a long time. So thank you to your team for, choosing us, this city, to bring the message and the incredible work you're doing at EXIM. So please just go ahead and feel free to just tell us a little bit about EXIM, the impact of your work on the nation, economic development, and the real value to businesses. You come from the business community,
Okay,
so
I do.
your voice is so powerful in
Thank
that
you.
space.
Thank you. It's I'm going to start with this numbers. 90. It's our 90th anniversary. So EXIM is celebrating its 90th anniversary this year. We were established in 1934 by FDR, President Roosevelt, during the Great Depression, 1934. And our first transaction was the sale of silver ingots to the country of Cuba for about $5 million. Wow. But he established EXIM to facilitate the exchange, the export and import between the U.S. and other countries. And we haven't drifted from that mission much, but I would say our mission of supporting U.S. job growth through exports is the fundamental core of what we do day in and day out. It's the mission that we wake up with and think about every day. So, and we achieve that mission a number of different ways. Again, supporting U.S. job growth, but through that, what we're really doing is supporting U.S. industry, manufacturing, businesses. Last year, we did about $8.7 billion in financing. About $2 billion of that was for small businesses, which in any given year makes up about 90% of the transactions that we undertake. So it's a very important, so that's a good message for the people and the businesses of Aurora and the Chicago area, and frankly, the nation. More people need to export, and our job is to make sure that they have the tools necessary to help them compete on a level playing field.
Wow. I love that, because you talk about the tools and trade financing, which is one of the message we have to articulate and present to the business community, particularly those new to export, is that there's a lot of complexity involved, but the tools that the bank offers really de-risks and really supports that those who want to go export, they have the tools, they support of the bank.
Yes.
And that's a key message, that you're not alone. And the United States actually has instruments to help you win in the international market.
That's correct. And let's talk about a couple of those tools, if we could, Toyin.
Yes,
so particularly for small businesses, EXIM provides short, medium, and long-term loans, either direct or through guarantees. Yes. For the larger loans, we prefer to work with financial institutions, both banks and non-banks, to provide a guarantee on top of that transaction. For small businesses, primarily what they use is export credit insurance. So it's our job to help them. Again, we want them to be focused on what they do best by taking the risk out of the transaction for them. So we have a number of different programs, products, I should say, insurance products for exporters, and it's all on our website, www.exim.gov. It really is the best place to start. I wish we had a bigger marketing department so that we could spread the word more widely across the country. But so I'm here today to tell you that we really, really want to do as much as we can for small businesses, because they are the driver of growth across the country and represent in any given year, as I said, 90% of the transactions that we do.
Right.
We also provide, working capital guarantee. We have a working capital guarantee program. So, sometimes when you get that super, super big order and you just need a little bit more inventory, we can help bridge the divide. And again, we work with banks to do some of that as well. And then I think what we're best known for, the projects or the financings that get the headlines, I don't think they're controversial, but again, we live in Washington, D.C., so everything is politics, are that we finance the foreign buyers purchasing U.S. goods and services, things like Boeing aircraft or large infrastructure projects. So it's a tool. Our long-term our long-term financing is really meant to facilitate growth overseas by providing the best of what America has to offer through our debt financing, really transactions that banks can't do, right? If for whatever reason they're not going to take that on, it could be they're tapped out in that market. It could be that they've hit their financing limit, or they don't particularly want to know anything about a particular sector, and so they just don't lean in, and that's where EXIM is here to help.
Wow, this is fantastic, and really the impact also on the community that houses those businesses, right? So what I have found is that communities that houses businesses that go international also create jobs in those communities.
That's right.
So for example, if Aurora businesses were to expand more internationally, they might have to start hiring more people if the demand increases, right? So being able to tap into EXIM resources, there's incentive for cities to open up to international markets.
Yes. So my mission, not the EXIM mission, but my mission is to make sure that small businesses know that businesses that export generate higher ROI, pay a better wage to their employees, and weather financial storms much better than businesses that don't export. Right? So if you're, and if you're a woman, add on top of that, if you're a woman and your return on investment is already 34% higher because you're a woman and you're running the business, right? Did you know that? I mean, I love that statistic.
I love this.
There are, let's see, American Express did a study, and I'm just going to look at my notes so I get the dollar amount right. And it was 40% of the businesses in the United States are women-owned. All right, small businesses are women-owned, but only 15% of them export. 15%. So, with 95% of the consumer base living outside of the United States, this is where we should be turning because of the things that I just indicated. I mean, what's not to like about paying a better wage? Those businesses also, by the way, employ more women than businesses that don't export. I mean, all these interesting things. I went off, I was speaking for International Women's Day, and so I was trying to dig up some data points, and we were coming across all these wonderful things. And then if we turn to, parity on boards, right? Sort of a mandate from Wall Street that if you want us to finance, we want to start seeing more balance on boards. And for all the reasons I've just given, please put more women on your boards, right?
Yes. I see that a lot.
Yes.
Wow. So you're so well traveled, right?
Little bit. A little bit. I think I've traveled more places internationally than I have domestically.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry to say.
And it's great, and you've seen the world, and for the opportunities you've seen outside of America and how businesses is run, outside of the U.S., what types of expectations would you say people might have, and what regions would you say maybe those opportunities are opening up more in the coming years, just from your experience?
Right. Well, you know, we're a couple of things there. Let's talk about sectors and regions. So EXIM is open in almost all sectors, with a few exceptions. You know, we don't finance defense products, for example. We're open in almost every country, again, with some exceptions, and you know, that has to do with just any number of different factors. But all of that's, it could be national security. Well, I mean, the obvious ones, like we are not providing any financing for projects in Russia, Iran, places like that. But yes, and there are a few others that are just in trouble financially, where maybe the World Bank or the IMF prefer that we don't add debt, and we don't want to add debt to countries' balance sheets if it's going to be a struggle for them to pay it off. But so that's sectors. But regions, you know, we have in our charter an emphasis on sub-Saharan Africa. So the Congress, in its wisdom, has put this in there to say this needs to be an area of focus, as do renewable energy, energy storage, and energy efficiency exports. A little bit harder, but we could talk about that maybe in a bit. So sub-Saharan Africa is a big focus.
I'm smiling.
I know, and it makes me happy too, because as we've talked about before we started filming this, you are Nigerian descent, and I've had the good fortune of spending maybe 18 years, you know, working in various places in sub-Saharan Africa, or the continent writ large. So it's, you know, it holds a special place in my heart, and I want us to do more there, because I think there's so much more to do. But having said that, I think it's up to people like you and all of our partners to the diaspora is typically the first to go back to the countries of their birth, because they know the markets and they know the cities and they know the consumers, and it's easier for them to identify what they can sell back into those markets. So I think Americans are somewhat reticent to go into sub-Saharan Africa. I'm not sure why, but the companies that we do work with are often repeat customers and have done some great things. Like in Senegal, Weldy Lamont is building out distribution grids for the country, and is also putting in microgrids in some of the small rural areas, and that's EXIM is financing that. In Angola, we just transacted our largest financing to date for a renewable energy project, 500 megawatts, 2 solar plants in the country of Angola. That's underway now. They're just dotting the I's and crossing the T's on the contract that it can actually kick in. But that is magnificent. We need to do more on that.
Absolutely.
American businesses have the wherewithal, the know-how. We have great customer service. We're honest, we have integrity.
And there's demand.
You know what you're getting. We're transparent, and especially with EXIM financing. So I do hope that more American businesses will look toward the continent as opportunities to partner with countries to build out infrastructure, because the cheapest way, as we now know, is not always the best way.
Yes, I agree with you. And over the years, I've seen the interest grow on both sides. The growth of, openness to Africa, primarily from a business standpoint. I know, for a long time, Africa has been seen through the lens of charitable giving. That's what I've encountered when I left corporate as well. And so the platforms and the conversations I've been hosting, like this one, has been, let's have the conversation about commerce, about trade. Right? Because that's where the mutually beneficial opportunities, that's where they live in, is that we can actually talk about demand and supply. We can talk about exports and imports. We can talk about trade financing, because also on the African continent, I've also seen an increased demand. Actually, it's always been there.
It has been there.
The love for America.
Now, and it's enough with the grant making. They They want to learn, right?
Yes.
Don't just, it's always the story with the fish, so I won't go over the story with the fish. Don't teach me how to fish, right? But don't just give me the fish. But anyway, that's an old adage. I'm so terrible with those kinds of things. But, Nigeria is about to be the third most populous country on the planet.
Yes.
And there is much that's needed, whether it's infrastructure, energy, electricity, power. I mean, we've done things. In my time, I was at OPIC for 7 years during the Obama administration before moving to EXIM. And just the needs are tremendous. And there are a lot of entrepreneurial small businesses in the United States that using EXIM's products, EXIM's export credit insurance to help them cover the risk, it could be tremendous opportunity on the continent to help, right?
I think, wow, this is incredible because the opportunities exist, the tools exist. We need to keep increasing awareness, and there's a lot of training facilitation required for the transactions to actually happen.
Right.
So those are the things I've also seen, is that there's increased interest, right? There's desire, but how do you convert desire into transactions? That's the practical side of business, the logistics, supply chain infrastructure, knowledge and know-how. That's one of the things that I would love for us to put more impact behind, because even in the diaspora community, we're raising a community of strong diaspora community. But what we've also found is,
they're smart and knowledgeable, and they know what they want, how they want to do it. But oftentimes, small businesses, they're so busy running their business, they don't have time to think. So those that are able to just take 10 minutes, if you took 10 minutes off your day, and after a month, and applied that couple of hours time to thinking about how I could export, who could I work with, people like you, Toyin, people like our partners in the state of Chicago, in the city of Aurora. And again, we've already talked about the benefits, right, of growing their business. So once they get the domestic business established, we need to figure out a way to work more closely together so that we can get them focused on exports, right?
I think it's telling success stories in the business world. We want to see other people that have done the same thing. I think it's about training, capacity building, and then connection, right? Platforms where people can start talking to each other and exploring. So those are some of the practical things that I've seen. And I've seen it lead to more positive outcomes. And I'm sure in your space as well, business is at the speed of relationship. How quickly can we build trust? How quickly can we showcase what we have to the right people, build trust, and then with the tools of EXIM, it opens the door to new frontier and new opportunities. And I hear there are new resources just launched. Do you want to talk about that?
There are. There is a new insurance product specifically designed to make exporting easier for first-time exporters that are women or minority-owned small business owners.
Yay.
And, like enough said, there's information on our website. Again, we are here to simplify and to encourage. And I think, encouraging the engagement, let us de-risk the transaction so that you could focus on getting the business and expanding the business. So this tool is designed to try to pull more. We talked about the statistics, right? I mean, only 15% of women-owned small businesses export, yet 40%. Right? So 15% of that is a very small amount. We need to grow that number. And with so many consumers living outside of our borders. I know Canada and Mexico being our largest trading partners, but I think the diaspora community is many diaspora communities are very important, and we do quite a bit of outreach, our small business shop. Webinars, seminars, you can find a schedule online, you can request a special schedule. Maybe we should do something
Yes.
in Aurora for the diaspora community. We would
Yes.
love to do that, and we
Yes.
can tailor the conversation
Right.
to that audience,
Right.
and we do that quite a bit.
Okay.
So we should talk
Yes,
more about that
and
after.
you talked about Canada. Just 2-3 weeks ago, we had the Consul General of Canada visit us here
Oh,
and talk
lovely.
about Canada as a destination for U.S. exports as well.
Right,
So
right.
the markets are open to U.S. products. In fact, the quality. I've found that people really want to buy U.S. products.
Yes,
Right.
I found that too.
It's kind of it's a natural quest for the quality,
Yes.
for the trust, and
Yes.
so how do we remove any friction, right? How do
Right.
we all the questions that might be on people's
Right,
minds? How do we quickly address that and remove those barriers, right? So
right.
that trade can move forward. So I see
right.
that in communities, communities of colors, that the barrier really is a mindset, not knowing,
Yes.
lack of knowledge, lack of the
Yes,
right
and
relationships.
that's right, and not always knowing where to turn for that information. So,
Yes.
so in a sense, that's on us to try to get the word out. But we do have regional representatives.
Yes.
I wish we had 5 times more than we do, but we are a small agency. I like to say we're a very small agency, and we have been for 90 years. But we punch above our weight, and so, to me, when you do get one of our representatives on the team, or if you're engaged or on the phone, or if you're at an event where they're speaking, or through people and relationships
Yeah.
like the district export councils or the World Trade Centers, or even the local chambers, some of the USIAC, some of the commerce established sites, they know enough about EXIM that they could direct you or guide you.
Yes.
And then again, I mean, honestly, in today's day and age, it's really exim.gov. If you go to the website, and you can find products that are there to help you, and ask online for further information,
Right.
and someone will call or someone will send you information. So it's really just taking that step. So
Yes.
you and I, we need to work on
Yes,
getting people to
yes.
take those steps.
Absolutely, and I know the Illinois District Council that I also belong to, we've been doing a lot of work
Right,
on
right.
behalf of the Illinois exporters, and we are looking forward to later this afternoon hosting
Yes,
and,
me
and,
too.
and going deeper into that. So absolutely, so there are resources in the government, there are resources in the private sector ready to empower people who bring years and years of doing this work, knowledge, expertise, and very much willing to guide, to nurture, to mentor, to
Yes.
coach, to educate. Like, we're all invested in nurturing our, the next set of exporters. So absolutely,
You have to start
it's a
somewhere,
passion
right?
project at
Right,
some point.
right,
and
right.
and I think once you dip your toes into international, you can't go back, because you
I
see
think
the
that's right.
world, you
I think that's
experience the
right.
world in a very fascinating
And then
way.
still, word of mouth is always the
Yes.
best way to get your product out there, it
Yes.
seems, especially when you have small marketing dollars. But we were with a small business earlier this morning
Wow.
who makes equipment for cleaning up water purification, not
Wow.
not for potable water, but for project sites
Industrial.
and industrial. And they have an order from this country, and then a repeat order from that country. And so, well, how did you get that business? And he said, we're not sure. It could have been a trade show, or it could have just been word of mouth, right? So you just never know where the next opportunity is going to come from. I think it's important to just I should say clearly, you have to be export ready, right? Some of the businesses we'll talk to might not be ready to start exporting,
Okay.
but for those that are, and again, if you go to our website, it will be clear whether or not that's going to work for you, right?
So some form of self-assessment,
A little bit of
self-evaluation.
self-assessment first,
Right,
yes,
right.
yes. But there's always someone that's willing to have a conversation or send an email back.
Yes.
So that's good.
Wow. So I'm looking forward to more transactions coming out of Aurora.
Yes, yes.
So definitely.
I heard this is the hot spot in Illinois for international trade. So.
Well, I know as our leadership here, the city leadership definitely is big on economic development,
Yeah,
and they've been making a lot of infrastructure investments. it's almost like they're preparing for the rain.
Ah, okay.
It feels
Good.
that way when
Okay.
I moved here. Like,
Okay.
what are you preparing for? Interesting. So I would give them, kudos for at least laying the foundation. And this facility, for example, is one of those major multi-million-dollar investment that the city has made. And
great.
because of that, we can come in and the business community can build on that infrastructure.
Right.
So definitely, Aurora is a very attractive city for business, for investment. And we're a growing city, we're a hungry city, we're a diverse city.
Right,
So I
right.
personally see a lot of opportunities for growth,
Yes,
right? If
yes.
you're already number one,
Yes.
then you don't have much competition.
You wanna
but
stay-
but when
yeah.
the horse is racing, I think Aurora is racing to catch up.
Got it.
So we're moving with speed, and hopefully these types of tools would help us be able to compete, right? And empower ourselves to grow our community.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. And it's
I
good to
love
have that
that.
conversation.
I love
and
that.
so one other thing I would want to mention, and this might be for some of the, but I mean, this is such a manufacturing community that it would make sense for me to mention. We have a new sort of initiative that is a way for EXIM for the first time ever to sort of full circle the entire life cycle of an export, right? Everyone's used to us providing either export credit insurance for the exporter, but more often it's medium or long-term buyer financing, right, for U.S. goods and services. So what this enables us to do, if you're a company and you manufacture widgets, and you all of a sudden your business is really starting to tick up, and your international business is growing, and now you need a bigger facility to manufacture those widgets domestically. But you can't get the bank loan. You're a little bit bigger than an SBA loan, perhaps. You can't qualify for that. What do? Now you can come to EXIM and you can talk to us about our Make More in America program.
Wow.
So for the first time, we can now support the full life cycle of an export. We can help you manufacture it, build it here, and then we can provide buyer financing for the export. As long as 15 to 25%, depending on if you're a small business, 15% of what is manufactured in the facility is for export. That is a new service offering that we have. Yes.
This is
very
huge.
new. We've only financed 3 transactions so far.
Wow.
But very exciting.
Yes.
Very exciting.
That's huge. So really expanding the footprints to support exports is now something.
It's something we should be doing, right? We should be helping build the infrastructure for our exporters so that they can export more. Yeah, instead of just providing the buyer financing.
Which is the last mile. You've done all the work.
last mile, that's correct.
You just want to sell.
Correct.
That's the sales
That's
standpoint. But in terms of the manufacturing, that's massive.
So we've done that. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
We've done this for a company called Beta Technologies, which is based in Vermont. Okay. They're going to be building a manufacturing facility in Burlington for vertical takeoff and landing aircraft.
Oh, wow.
So small drones that hold 2 people. Okay, so they've just passed another milestone with the FAA. So we're providing a $150 million loan to build out what's going to end up being a net zero emissions facility. So on top of it, it's really cool, right? I mean, that they're thinking ahead, like this is where we need to be. It can't just be the product we produce. The facility that we produce it in also has to be neutral. And so we have financed that. That's one example of a facility. Another one was for just $5 million for a Pennsylvania company, 30-year customer of EXIM's, minority small business owner in Pennsylvania called Aquatech, and they provide lithium testing for, again, my words, but to determine sort of the efficacy of the extractive for quality levels for EVs, for electric vehicle batteries.
Wow.
And they needed more advanced equipment, and they needed to not build out their space, but build up their space, if you will, in the sense of, bringing it to the more modernization.
Right.
And they needed a $5 million loan to do it, and they couldn't get the bank to give them the money. So we looked at that, we looked at their contracts, we looked at who they're in business with, we looked at their history with EXIM, and we provided a $5 million loan.
Wow.
And that's all domestic.
That's really powerful.
So,
It's very empowering.
So it's
as well.
a good tool. So I'm glad we could
got-
talk about it just a little
yes.
bit. I wanted to sneak that in
Yes.
there on you, Toyin.
Yes, thank you. No, this was really good. I want to shift a little bit to more of your leadership principles. I always like to leave our audience with, just how people think about leadership, how they approach leadership, and maybe one or two things that you feel has helped you continue to progress professionally, connect with people, impact the world.
Okay.
That maybe our audience can learn from, because
Okay.
I really believe the heart with which we do our work is also very important.
I think that's a great way to say it. Okay, first of all, for your audience, I am a fellow Midwesterner, Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised. And I think we have I'm allowed to say this, unique traits that you don't necessarily get from other parts of the country. I think we're tenacious. I think we are hard workers. Yeah. I think we just put our heads down and figure it out and get the job done. We stick with it. Yeah. We're very resourceful. Maybe it's the cold winters. I'm not sure what it is. I don't miss the cold winters, so I'd say living in Washington. In my case, I think it was a lot of hard work. I am first generation in my family to go to college.
Oh, wow.
My parents were both first generation to be born in the United States,
Wow.
which is very Midwestern, very Midwestern. Lots of ethnic communities in Cleveland, as there are, and certainly in the Chicago area and throughout Illinois. But so hard work, a little bit of hustle, and I would say, and a little bit of luck, right? I mean, I'm a believer in fate, for better or worse. I mean, things, whether they happen from some divine intervention or if it truly is just a matter of circumstance, fate is what it is.
I
and
think
things
this one
happen
is
for a reason.
for the connection we've been
Maybe
making.
it is. Maybe it is. So I think that's part of it too.
Yeah.
Being, if something doesn't happen, there's got to be a reason, or you just accept it and you move on to the next thing. It wasn't meant to be. So for me, I think being in the right place and meeting the right person helped me enter the Obama administration. When I wasn't sure how to go about it, I just knew that I wanted to work for that president.
Oh, wow.
Really wanted to work for President Obama, and I ran into somebody in the vegetable section of the grocery store
my gosh.
who introduced me to someone. I'm not kidding.
Oh, my gosh.
And then there I was,
Wow.
an appointee of the Obama administration, proudly serving our country, and it was the beginning of my public service. And so, I've kind of stuck around. EXIM's kept me. They've been very nice about it.
Are you? Oh my gosh!
But so that's the fate. I know what I can do. I know I can get things done. What I don't know, I'm going to ask questions about. Women do that. We don't say, yeah, I can do this. We just say, well, I'm not sure I can do it, but I'm going to find out, and I'm still going to get it done.
Yes.
So I ask a lot of questions. I try to read a lot. I try to engage with our regional reps. I'm here with Ursula,
Yes.
who's your rep, and you know her, and you've had her on your
She's
program
amazing.
before. She's amazing. So, the next 2 days, I'm going to learn a lot from her and try to absorb as much as I can. But I think that's what it takes, right?
Right, and openness. So thank you as well. I'm sure even when the invitation was brought to you, people don't have to say yes. So that's why I always apply gratitude. When anybody shows up
Yes, that's a good trait.
on
That's
my
very
platforms
nice.
or any events or anything I'm doing, because truly nobody has to say yes.
Yes.
But I do value and I do appreciate people who are open to the possibilities, because what I see is that every moment is pregnant with opportunities.
Yes.
If we can seize the moment, if we can see the positive side of life,
Yes.
if we can see hope in people, and if we can trust one another, there's so much we can do.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is something I've seen working for Fortune 1 at Walmart, is that there's so much incredible potential, when people can dream
Yes.
and can see each other and can see the greatness in each other
Yes.
and can put that to work.
And back to your leadership point,
Yes.
being able to recognize and nurture that,
Yes.
I think is a critically important trait of a strong leader, right? It's not all about you, it is about the people that you're lifting up.
Absolutely.
It is protecting them. It is helping them. It is realizing and recognizing that the more diverse your team, the better outcomes you'll have
Right.
for business. That's
Right.
that's a fact. That's just a statistical return on investment fact. And so that's been a big part of how I've approached my leadership opportunities throughout my career, primarily in business, is trying to recognize, you have this diverse group. It's not a cookie cutter approach. Not everyone will be the same. So being able to sort of take a step back and recognize, okay, this person is just never going to be able to meet a deadline unless you change the way you work with him on the deadlines, because the product is so fabulous, right? You want to keep that person. But everybody's got we're all human and we're all different. And so how do we pull that together and nurture that diversity in experience, in religion, in upbringing, in race, in ethnicity? It's all so important.
Yes.
It's also important. And I've had the good fortune of having opportunities to work with diverse groups of people and in places where I feel like I've been able to expand my horizons, and it gives me new perspective, and then I feel like I can help my team a little bit better.
And
so
yes. And for me, I mean, this conversation is just you remind me of so many leaders that dedicate themselves to driving impact that are generational.
Yeah.
Right? Not just
Thank you.
today.
That's nice. Thank you.
But yeah, no, it really, and I just, there are not enough of those people that are not short-sighted. They're not just about me and today. Many people lay the foundation for generations to come.
Yes.
Like this work you're doing in EXIM, who's to tell 10 years from now what the outcomes are? But there's some tough decisions that has to be made today. There's some tough investments that if we don't make, people won't really know what the cost is until it's too late. Right. So when we think about where the world is going, economic development, most of the time leadership requires us to act quickly, fast, not just for today, but for tomorrow.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you remind me of that.
Kudos to Chair Lewis for bringing this domestic finance initiative, for example, to the board for us to vote on, because I think certainly in the short term, it's the shiny new object.
Yes.
And we have many, many inquiries and lots of interest in this. But it broadens the scope, it broadens our mandate, it broadens our ability to support and fulfill our mission.
I agree.
And at the end of the day, we have a specific mission to fulfill at EXIM, and that's to grow U.S. jobs by helping to facilitate exports. So for the betterment, I will always go back to that. I don't want to it can't just all be about making money. It has to be about helping change the greater good, if you will. I have a quote here that I wanted to share with you, if I could, if I brought it with me, which I didn't bring with me, so I'll see if I can remember it. But not FDR, but his nephew, I think it was his nephew that was a president later on, Teddy Roosevelt, once said, "Do what you can with what you have where you are." So, right? I mean, basically, like live your day in the moment to a certain regard. Like, I know I'm here at EXIM for a short time. We're all here. Let's figure out what we can do to leave EXIM in a better place than when we got there. And that means, because if we can do that, that means that the team at EXIM is therefore helping businesses, small businesses in Aurora and throughout the state of Illinois and across the country to help fulfill their aspirations and their goals. And I think there has to be some little bit of altruism in what you do. Otherwise, what's the point, right? So I'm a believer in that. You know,
I believe that with you as well, and that's a life worth living, actually.
yeah, good.
That's worth it, because
Just a small change,
Yeah.
something that you can
Yes.
do to make a difference, right?
And you're being here for sure today.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
sure it may seem small, but I really believe that it's the beginning of greater things
Thank
that
you.
EXIM will do in the city and beyond. So thank you so much
Thank you
for
Toyin.
being here. You and I definitely, we have so much
We have
more
a
to
lot in
catch up.
common. I know. Thank you
Yes.
so much
No,
for having
thank you.
me.
Thank you so much. Thank you to your amazing team. Definitely, they made this happen as well. I'm sure,
Yeah, they're great.
Yes, so
They're really
thank
a
you
good
so
team.
much.
Okay, thank you.
And I want to say thank you to everybody that joined today. This is really, really such a joyful engagement, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. And thank you again to our special guest for coming all the way.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
It's really been my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.